And g'day once again, flight simmers. This is Denpasar Airport on the island of Bali in Indonesia. I'm going to take the MD-80 for a flight from Denpasar down to Darwin in the Northern Territory of Australia. I'm pulled up at the ramp today because the air bridges over there don't have auto gate and don't seem to work. It is a freeware that I've downloaded. It's okay, I suppose. So just looking around the island of Bali, and if I remember right, over there that's some big volcano that blows its top every once in a while and shuts down all the air traffic. Got a couple of aircraft there with Scandinavian Airlines, and that's a Delta, but I'm pretty certain none of those airlines comes down to Bali, but I might be wrong. Qantas Link, by the way, doesn't fly between Indonesia and Australia, and in fact we in Australia don't have any MD-80s. So it's really a fictitious flight. And what I might do is, because it's hard to talk over the sound of all that stuff outside, I'm just going to see if I can make a couple of them disappear. Get rid of the fuel, maybe the catering. No, that didn't make any difference. What I might do is just get rid of the lot. Now we can hear. I've tried to tweak the sound files on that ground handling plugin. I could get them down so far, but not enough. Now, as a rule, for using the MD-80, I have my own set of checklist that I use together with what I can remember. But because this is a 3-hour flight down to Darwin, I'm going to use my first officer, Betty, to run through the checklist for me, and that way that will probably save a bit of time. And to bring that up to checklists and open it up. And this is produced by someone at Rex NEB, and that's his or her web page there. So let's start the ball rolling and hit the next.
Cockpit preparation checklist. Parking brake. Set. Battery. On and locked. Position lights. On. Emergency exit lights. Arm. No smoking signs. On. Request GPU. Requested. External powered bus left and right. Both on. Start pump. On. APU start. Started. APU powered bus left and right.
Now I won't turn those on until we sort out our fuel, cargo and passengers. First off though, we leave the doors open because obviously we've got to load fuel and passengers, etc. So we go to the next page, and SimBrief have given me all the details I need for this particular route. To fill all the tanks, to total payload. And we need trip fuel. And I made a mistake then, I've got to put it all in pounds. So I've got to go back and do that one. It's better. We've really got to look closely at the landing weight to make sure it doesn't exceed the maximum landing weight. You can see it just is underneath, which means we're pretty well loaded up. Okay, now we can slip back very quickly. No, first off I'm going to load up the fuel, expedite that, cargo and the passengers. Now we can go up here, we can turn on the APU buses. Sorry, wrong one. Up there, up
Both
there.
on. Aft right fuel pump. On. External power bus left and right. Both off. Dismiss GPU. Dismissed. HP bleed. Both on. Galley. On. Windshield anti-fog. On. Windshield anti-ice. On. IRS1 and mode. Both NAV. Yaw damper. On. Logo light.
Not going to bother with the logo light because it's daylight.
Radio rack.
This
Fan.
cools the radio
Cabin
rack
pressure.
down. That's automatic.
Set. Altimeter.
Okay. Let's go and have a look at active sky. Let's have a look at our briefing and see what our altimeter is for Denpasar. And it's 1010. QNH is 1010. And while here we'll light up our instruments. And that includes the FMC.
Set. Fuel used reset. Reset. Hydraulic pumps 1 and 2. Both low. Takeoff condition.
That's okay.
CG 0 and flap 0. Transponder 2000 and standby mode. Checklist complete. FMS assistant.
Now this is what
Red airport.
This is what I bypass because I can do that without this.
Hey, init ref. Before start checklist. APU lead air.
Okay, then we go to our FMS. Now Bali is Whiskey Alpha Delta Delta. And Darwin is Yankee Papa Delta November. Activate. Company route. Care of Simbrief. Our flight number is going to be QFA. Beck. Foxtrot Alpha 50. And I know what the runway is, but we'll organise that. We activate it, perfect. Now because we've already filled the fuel and the cargo and the passengers, we can just enter that and that one up the top. Our reserves are going to be 3. Cost index in this is 250. We're going to be at flight level 310. And our cruise wind is 005 degrees, and it's sorry, that's 8. And 005. Outside temperature is 30 degrees. Our transition altitude for Bali, I think it's about 11. I'm just checking on my map. Yeah, it's 11,000. Oh, outside temperature was 30. I'm not derating this aircraft. Now, to calculate our V-speeds, we use the tables supplied by Rotate, and based on the gross weight of 123.6. That looks a bit light on, but 123.6. And we normally take off the flaps 11, so the first B1 will be 126. VR will be 132. And V2 is 141. Now we've got to figure out our departure. SimBrief has said it's runway 09, and if we look at active sky, it also says by wind direction 09. Okay, now looking at our waypoints, 10 waypoints, but we're looking at ANGS 2A as our first waypoint. So zero 09, ANGS 2. Now, right now, of course, yes, we can. This is now filled out, we're lit up, because the IRS has been aligned, so we can hit the execute button and we can go and have a look at our modes to step through our route. That looks pretty good. Fairly basic departure there. Let's clear this, tidy this up. What I do is I go back and I set it on takeoff, because to do our long trim we're going to need that figure. Centre of gravity 10. But we'll now can continue with the checklist. So APU bleed now is on. Bit too far, that's it.
HP bleed. 1 off. PUX feed valve left and right. Both open. Doors.
Okay, so it's all the doors closed.
All closed. Throttle. Idle. Galley. Off. Shaft and FWD fuel pumps.
So that's the
Left and right on.
right now.
Center fuel pumps.
Okay, lady, give me a chance. So we're going to have a look to see if we're going to be using fuel from our center tank, which we are.
AS required. HP bleed. Both off. Hydraulic pumps 1 and 2. Both low. Hydraulic pumps trans. On. Hydraulic aux. On. Position and strobe lights. Both on. Anti-foul light. On. Transponder. XBDR mode. Checklist complete. FCU. Flight director. On. Max bank angle. 15A degrees. Heading runway track.
Heading's 86 degrees.
Set. Departure altitude.
Right, we don't have ATC, so I may as well put the cruising altitude in. That was 31,000.
Set. Speed.
Speed I put in at 250, which is your standard sort of climb out speed up to 10,000. You'll notice I'm not putting in V1 there. You don't have to. There we go.
Set. Engine start checklist. Ignition switch SYS8. On. Engine start right.
Right, now of course I'm not going to start the engines until we get our pushback organised. What I'll do is bring down ABI tab. And we'll have a look at the airport, which is Whiskey Alpha Delta Delta. We'll have a look at the airport. Okay, so there we are, 09 here. So it's a basic, just a straight taxi down there. Looks like we'll need to use better pushback and go for a left turn. Move him out of the way. There's our taxi line there.
Round to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
Right, now we can do that. And while we're waiting for the trolleys to come up, the tractors to come up.
Ground to cockpit, tow is driving up.
We can start organising our long trim. And that's why I had that up there. Our centre of gravity is, CG is 11. Flap setting is going to be 11 as well. Now you can't see that that slider come down. It's very hard in the dark, but we've got to bring that down, and it's got to be situated between 6 and 7 and perfectly in line with the green pointer on the left.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
Now if that isn't a line, of course, Bitch and Betty will really let you know, but it looks like it's pretty good. So we can go back, just leave our legs up there. And we can wait for the lift up.
So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake. Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Right. The right engine started first.
On. Fuel valve right.
Now we don't open the fuel valve right until our N2 reaches between 2021. Right engine.
Open. Engine start left.
Now we don't start the left engine until the engine buses kick in. Like so. So now we can start the left engine.
On. Fuel valve left.
Again, we wait for N2 to come up.
Open. Checklist complete. After start checklist. Ignition switch. Off. Engine start. Both off. APU lead air. Off. APU powered bus left and right. Both off. APU off. Galley on. Fuel heat.
We don't need
AS
that.
required. Ice protect meter so heat. Capped. Hydraulic pumps 1 and 2. Both high. PNUX feed valve left and right. Both closed. HP bleed. Both auto. Speed brake. On. Takeoff condition.
Now we set the center of gravity before.
Operation complete. Set parking brake. Disconnecting
Seating and
tow.
flaps
Stand
set.
by.
And
Trim.
and we set
Set.
the trim.
Flaps.
Flaps 11.
Takeoff. Auto brake selector. Takeoff. Checklist complete. Taxi out checklist. Seat belts. On. Nose light. Dim. Timer. Run. Parking brake.
Oh,
Release.
Tow
Brakes.
is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal will be on the right. We'll see you next time and have a great flight.
okay, brakes are checked.
Checked. Flight controls. Checked. Weather radar WX flashed cast. Set. Transponder. TAW/array mode. Transponder direction. Above. Auto brake mode. Harm. Moral config warning.
That's okay.
None. Checklist complete. Takeoff checklist. Ignition switch both.
Okay, we don't need to do that until we're ready to take off. So, ready to taxi.
On landing, lights left and right.
I made the bad mistake of putting some silicone grease on my foot pedal sliders, and I'm paying the penalty for that.
Both on. Nose light. Bright. EPR mode. Takeoff. Toga. On. Auto throttles. Takeoff and informations. Positive climb. Gear up.
Airspeed alive. V1. Rotate. And positive rate. Gear up.
No lights. All above okay.
And let's organise ourselves here. Go to nav. APU's on. And we go to climb. And we watch our speed. Flaps up at 180. Over 1,000 feet, we can go to VNAV. Check everything's right. VNAV, climb. Shouldn't be on heading hole, we should be on nav. There we go, nav track. Flaps can come up. And goodbye to Bali. Let's check that we're on track. And our speed restrictions 250 all the way to flight level, or transition height 11,000, that makes sense. Not exactly looking like we're on course for some reason, but that's our speeds 250. We're on autopilot and we're on nav track. Level off 6,000 for some reason. We are on climb. Flight directors are okay. Nav is on. VNAV. seem to be just flying a parallel course to that waypoint Bowel and maintaining 6,000. Oh, there we go. Yeah, well, I should have looked at that. It is 6,000 at Bowel. Looks like we're starting to come over. Yep, it's behaving itself. Yeah, we're coming back nicely on course. They're heading to Cadott. It's 123. We'll just set our heading on 123. Now we've got our speed, our height restriction lifted up to 11,000, but still at 250 knots.
Yes. Checklist complete. Climb checklist. EPR mode. Centimeters. Auto brake selector. Off. Ignition switch. Off. Speed brake. Retracted. Hydraulic pumps off. Hydraulic box. Off. Nose light. Off. Landing lights left and right.
We can turn them off now.
Both off. Seat belt sign. Auto. Checklist complete. Cruise checklist. EPR mode.
Now we don't have to worry about that until we get to flight level 310. So everything is back on track. So we're up to 11,000 feet, which is transition height soon. And we're pretty well at transition height. We should start to climb now at 6 nautical miles up to flight level 245. And the speed should be 298, which it is. 1 nautical mile. And we should start to climb, and there we go. (103° to Dambo). And the rotate MD-80 has a bit of a darkish cockpit, so it pays some time to light it up, even though it's broad daylight. Now, I figured just using that checklist with the first officer reading it out cuts the time down by at least a third, even to a half, which is very handy, as I said, on these longer flights. Yeah, it looks like the weather's going to be pretty good for us. We can double check with active sky. And it's looking pretty clear. There's no active cells around, so let's have a look at our briefing quickly and see what it's like at Darwin. The wind's from 10 degrees and 6 knots, so yeah, there's no indication of overcast weather there, just a few clouds at 1800. And it's giving us runway 29, which will be an ILS approach. Okay, now like I always do with my videos, I just like to highlight the departures and arrivals because it's going to be a couple of hours before we get close to top of descent. So I'll pause the video at this stage and get back when we're sort of getting close to our bottom of descent, our top of descent. So see you then. Okay guys, here we are back again. Flight level 310. Just looking at that outside view, surfing along the top of those thin clouds. Gives the impression that I've sped the sim up, but I haven't. Looks quite good. Okay, here we are. Like I said, we're at flight level 310 and just looking at the progress on the FMC. Top of descent in 112 nautical miles, Darwin's 220. So we better start looking at where we're going to be landing, or which runway that's going to be. So first off, let's bring up active sky and have a look ahead. And on the briefing, if we go down to Darwin, we're looking at the winds of 6 knots from 10 degrees. Very few clouds at 1800. And as we noted before, runway 29. And ILS will be an ILS approach, and the frequency's 109.70. And I'd say 286 is the heading. That'll show up on the charts, the approach anyway, so we know that's likely runway. So let's go up and have a look at AVTAP, which I've already had a quick squiz at. And this is what I've come up with. Okay, first off, the arrival. Now, one of our waypoints is Donya. That's there, that's up there. And this is the arrival. Now, runway 29, here. So we're on a downwind right approach, which will be this one up here, with a big turn there, and then line up the ILS at La Paz. Yeah, just some arrival details for 29 here. Okay, so let's have a look at the approach to runway 09. And here's our frequency 109.7 and our cruise, our course 2860. And having a look at our initial approach fix, it's 3000. So it looks like a fairly basic approach. Okay, first off, what I'll do is, we're still a bit of a way. Let's have a look at, we're still 89 nautical miles away to top of descent. So what we'll concentrate on here is getting in our arrival into the FMC. I might just have to move him out of the way for the moment. Alright, oh, it's not 09, it's 29. Let's go for the Z. That's I for ILS 29Z, so there. And it'll be the Donya 7A. Transition La Paz. Let's see how that pans out. And we'll do our mode check. Make sure it looks okay. Take that back a bit. That's the one we want. just go back up to our first page and step it out. Okay, Donya, we've got to execute that, by the way. I mustn't forget that. Donya, Sudag, Waki, Wookie, a Waki, and round we go. And there's Lapar as the transition. And I think we'll execute that. Just go back, just double check that. Hang on a minute, let's go to the next page, let's start again. There we go. No, it won't do it. Okay, legs. That's better. There's Wookie again. Yep, I'm happy with that. So where we are now is we're off heading to Curly, 23 nautical miles. Okay, let's bring up Avitab again. And let's have a look at our decision height. Australian landing, runway 29, it's an ILS, and the decision height for Barrow is 290. And that's 290 radio. We can do that if we want. That's all we need there. Back up to the top. Let's get our frequencies sorted out. 109.7. I'll get rid of this. That's him. And our course was 286. Could have gone back the other way, but anyway. We're set. So we've got our frequency in, we've got our course in, and we've got our decision height in. Now what we have to also do is just have a look and see what the QNH is in Darwin. And it's one, hang on, where are we? Oh, it's not showing here. So what we'll do is go to the map, have a look there. Right. Yeah, 1010. Transition height for Australia is 10,000 feet. Weather's looking okay. Nothing there to worry about. Looks like it's going to be fairly free of clouds. Okay, let's see how close we are. And 78 nautical miles. Okay, while we're waiting for the commencement of our descent, I might just give you a little bit of trivia on Darwin and Darwin Airport. Many years ago, back in the days after the Second World War, when the intercontinental aircraft that was used by Qantas was mainly the Super Constellation, and the route between Australia and England was called the Kangaroo route. I think it still is to this day. Back in those days, though, with an aircraft like Constellation, it needed a lot of stops, and Darwin in the Northern Territory was one of those stopping off points for refuelling for the Kangaroo route. Now, once the jet age came and the Boeing 707s and all those came in and were able to fly greater distances, they bypassed Darwin. It's used now by the Royal Australian Air Force. There's some aircraft based there from time to time. Very long runway, and that was due to the fact that the Lockheed Constellation did require quite a long runway. During the Second World War, the Japanese bombed Darwin, caused a lot of damage and made the airport quite vulnerable to attack, so both the Royal Australian Air Force and the United States Air Force, who had come to our assistance, realised it was pretty vulnerable to Japanese attacks, so they created a number of bases inland in the bush for fighters and other aircraft. And some of those old runways are still in existence, although they're overgrown and they're not used anymore. The RAAF these days actually base their F-18s in the Northern Territory. And I think it's Tyndall is the name of the base there. Yeah, Tyndall Military Base. And another bit of trivia, Darwin was practically destroyed by Cyclone Tracy in 1974. Very reminiscent of the one that's devastated the Bahamas. He was a Category 5. A lot of people died. The place was just totally flattened. Not too often you get a Category 5, but that hit, I think, on was it Boxing Day or New Year's Day? No, I think Boxing Day 1974. So that's your bit of trivia for today. Okay, let's have a look now. We're coming up on top of descent in 45 nautical miles. And I'll set the altimeter at 3,000 feet as our initial approach fix. Sometimes I hate these dragging things, dragging knobs. So steady as she goes, 30, and we're still at flight level 310. And I might even play a bit of music. See what I've got. I'll do that fly past again, that's so cool. We're very close now to top of descent. And now may be the right time to bring up the checklist. Very close now. And that's Donya, which is at, there we go now. We're going to Sudag, and that's, we'll go back to legs, 137 degrees. I'll set the heading. Okay, so that's done. Now, why haven't we started descending? Should be on our way down now. May have accidentally switched off the VNAV then. Yep, I did, when I was over fiddling around. So it'll play catch up now. Okay, back to our checklist. We've now set our altitude.
Set EPR mode.
It's set to climb. Even though we're descending, that's just the way it is.
Centimeters. Transponder direction. Below. Cabin pressure and landing elevation.
Just have a look at the landing elevation. It's not that high at all. Habitat, I'll be in Habitat, we'll have a look. Here we go, airport elevation's only 103 feet. Might just switch back to that approach and we might show up on this shortly. Yeah, so I've already set the elevation for Darwin at 100 feet and the QNH in inches is 29.8. And we should start appearing on the Avitab arrival here somewhere very shortly. Now we've got to get down to 15,700 and 27 nautical miles. Yeah, we're descending fairly rapidly. We're going down 2,600 feet a minute. That's okay. Okay, we don't need that anymore. Now we do our engine sync. Take it off. That's up here. Make sure it's in the off position, which it is. That should go off.
Set.
That's it.
Engine sync. Off.
That's it.
Seat belt sign.
I'll click that. Seat belt signs here.
On landing lights left and right.
Well, only at 10,000, so we're nowhere near that. We're descending. There we go. nice clear blue sky. That's Darwin ahead of us. Can't see much of the town at this stage, although there it is there by the look of it. Coming down really fast. I'll set the heading now to 186. Now that's pretty well much the downwind route. Oh no, it isn't. Enum is 106. That's matched it. And we're passing our runway pretty shortly. That should be on the right hand side. It'll be over there. There it is there. See if we can see ourselves from the tower. There we go. That's not a real good view of Darwin. So we'll be dropping our speed down to 230 knots from Daction. Stays at 230. The FMS on the MD-80 never goes below that particular final speed that it calculates, which means that it's up to us to make the adjustments for the speed. We'll be coming up in transition height very soon. You see we've got a nice turn to do down there. The QNH was 1010. And we can turn on our landing lights.
Both on. Checklist complete. Approach and landing checklist. Ignition switch both.
Okay, we don't need to go through that checklist until such time as we're starting a turn, which is actually pretty close, so we may as well go through it.
On. Hydraulic pumps on. Hydraulic box. On. Gear down.
Okay, gear's not going down just yet. And we're into the turn. Speed's still a little bit high. And we can help it along a bit. Speed's coming down. And we can put that away. Now with the MD, you can see we can have gear down at 300. We can have our flaps down 280, 240 at full, which can help to slow it down. So no reason why we can't take the first flap, which is flap, well, it's actually the slats coming out now. And we're starting to get some action here on the localizer. What I like to do is once we start to line up to the runway, I like to disconnect the activate FMS override, which means you can control the speed a lot more precisely. And that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to bring the speed down to about 210 at this stage. Now Betty will start moaning about flaps. So we've still got 2,000 feet to go, so we'll probably still be maintaining that speed there, because we are descending at a rate of 1700. Now we're starting to slow down a little bit. I can help it along. Now we should be turning on to finals now. We're just about ready to level off. And the speed's starting to come down now, so we can start. And we're a little bit high on the glide slope. And what we'll do is we'll bring it down even a little bit lower to about 175. Speed is coming right down now.
Down. Green lights. Flaps.
That's gear down. Let's just have a look out. $40, 118, that's 523.
Landing. Nose light.
No, we overshot. No, we didn't capture the glide slope. It's coming down now, it's a bit too slow. And we've lost it. It's a go around. Spoiler flaps extended. That's what our flap setting is. We can go up one. And keep an eye on our speeds dropping off 180. And we'll go up with our speed. We'll take our speed up to 220. Missed approach. And we'll have to do a heading on this, vector ourselves around. Should have come back the other way. Let's go for heading. And our altitude should be 3,000, which it is. And we'll do the go around. 200 knots roughly. And we become around to 106. And it puts us back on the downwind course. And it looks like once you miss the approach, you lose all of the route details, and it just says end of route. So we'll just have to vector ourselves in. Yeah, we don't show up on the other tab. So we should be back on our downwind course. It's 3,000 feet. What I might do is just drop that down to 2,500, just to make sure we get below the glide slope. Okay, we'll do an alt hold there. Close enough. Still maintain our speed at 220. Just check my flap settings. Just going to follow this heading for a while. It's coming back to 2,500. That first notch of flaps I put down changed things a bit, but it's back to normal now. And a VREF 40 degrees, 170 knots, so that should be 122. Seems a bit slow. Certainly Avitab doesn't show the aircraft on that arrival chart. I don't think it will on the oh, there it is. So we'll just fly a little bit further and come around onto that heading 286 and see whether we can capture the glide slope this time. It'll fade out of the map here, of the chart. Okay, let's make a turn. If we're lucky, we'll pick up the localizer, and that may bring us back on. Glide slope fail, so localizer over there. Let's get ourselves on that course back in 286 degrees. Let's see if we can line up. I'd increase the bank angle actually. And we'll watch the localizer, hopefully. That should be our heading. We're under the glide slope. Yeah, I might drop the speed a bit now. Come back down to about 185. Keep an eye on the localizer. Sorry, on the glide slope. So will it pull us across? Might take it back slightly a heading. We will activate the V-lock. We'll do V-lock, see what happens. And we'll take our gear down now. Don't need that anymore. Now all I want to do is capture that ILS, capture the glide slope, I mean. And we've got to arm the auto brake system. And we're going to miss that localizer again, that ILS again. And it's coming down now. Might be in luck this time. Let's arm that. We've got our lights on. Looks like we've captured the glide slope. Okay, let's drop our speed right down to VREF, which is about 122. I think that's a little bit slow, but and there's a runway. Speed coming down. That's Betty. Aircraft. Manual trim.
1000.
Check. Bit of a crosswind, maybe.
500.
I think 122 knots was a bit too slow.
400.
Check.
Minimums.
Check.
Minimums.
Continue.
200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
well. Wasted? Okay. I wasted it. What happened there? Must have busted the wheel. That's weird. I might just go back and see what happened there. Let's have a look. Look at that. Nose wheel never came down. Anyhow, there's no failures in this. Go back a bit further. Just take it forward just a touch. Here we go. Let's see how that landed. I should have looked outside, wouldn't have, I didn't pick up on that. Let's have a look. Can't complain about the angle of attack. Usually that that nose is higher than that. That wasn't a bad touchdown, and well, let's just say we had an emergency. I might just go right back to when we did the missed approach, just quickly, to see whether what happened with the gear on that occasion. But come forward. A bit further. So this is the first approach. airfields back there. I'll speed this up. We're making our turn now. Let's see what happens with the gear. That's lining up on finals. Gear down, and it never came down the first time. Okay, I'm going to stop it there and go back a bit, and I'd sort of recall that I was getting a warning in the cockpit. Just take it back to there, go into the cockpit. This is the first approach. Okay, should here, gear should go down in a minute. Slow that down a bit. That was our approach height. I had put the gear down by then. It doesn't sound like the warning is coming out in replay. I'll have to check to see whether there were failures, but I'm quite sure I turned them off.
Minimums.
There's not much point trying to taxi over to the gates. But what I might do is we'll turn the engines off. I hear you. Okay, that's about it. Pretty well brings it to an end. The purpose of the video, of course, as I said at the start, was basically to show how you could use the first officer's checklist to help you get all the systems operating quickly. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to use that for the final here.
Bright. Speed brake.
And I would have had, well, I did arm the speed brake.
Auto brake selector.
I did arm the
Max.
and I did
Auto brake mode.
I armed it.
Arm. Checklist complete. Taxi and checklist.
So from
Ignition
then on,
switch.
From then on, it would have been a taxi and checklist. Ignition switch off, the ice protection off, landing lights off, nose light dim, flight director off, position lights on, speed brake retracted, flaps retracted, transponder onto XPDR, weather radar off, and the APU on start. So obviously we never got to do that. Anyway, an interesting flight. Didn't end up quite like I wanted it to. But anyway, I hope got something out of it, particularly with the checklist side of things. And to be truthful, that's the first time I've missed an ILS in this particular aircraft, and it's the first time I've had any major structural problems like a nose wheel that did come down. But I'll check up on that and just go through the failures list to see whether that was a built-in failure that I wasn't aware of. So again, I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. It's me again. Just I thought I might add a little transcript to this video. In fact, I did check to see whether there were failures activated, and even though I thought they weren't, it now turns out that yes, the nose wheel actuator jammed and failed. I've changed back to always working. So yes, it was a failure, and I've also hit the fix all systems, and I no longer tick the set global mean time between failures. So that shouldn't happen again. Again, thanks for watching, and goodbye again.